Alright, you lot, and welcome back to the next installment of our Learning to Fly the F-18 series. In this episode, we are going to look at takeoff from an airfield and from a carrier. Let's get cracking. Okay, firstly, we're going to look at taking off from an airfield. We're currently parked at the threshold of the runway, and we're going to check a few things before we get onto the actual runway. So if we look down on this left panel here, we are going to make sure our flaps are at half. Our anti-skid system is on, because we're on an airfield, and we're going to turn the landing taxi lights on. If you look at the screens at the minute, on the left-hand screen, we've got what's displayed on the HUD up here, repeated. So if we have any issues with the HUD during takeoff, we've got that information down here. And on the right hand screen, we've got the flight control system data. So if we move our flying controls around with our stick, you can see all the numbers change there as the flight controls move. Now, our stabilizer is currently set at 12 degrees up, which is standard takeoff trim. And as soon as we take off, the computer will take over and start doing the trim for us. Before we actually taxi onto the active runway, we're going to have a look both ways, make sure there's nothing down here on the runway and nothing coming into land. And we'll have a look the other way, make sure there's nothing on the runway down here and nothing coming into land. Now this is pretty important if you're playing multiplayer online, because people tend to just drop in and out without saying anything over the radio, or if you're not tuning into the right radio. These things can happen. So now that we've checked that, we'll take the parking brake off, give it a bit of beans to get ourselves moving, and we'll get onto the runway. Once we're lined up on the runway, we're going to increase the thrust. Now, depending on what you're carrying at the time, if you've got a big heavy load, you might need to use reheat or afterburner. But today we are carrying absolutely nothing, as you can see. So we're just going to use what we call max dry, which is the maximum engine power without engaging reheat or afterburner. So as we taxi out, we'll keep looking left and right, make sure nothing's coming in. Once we're rolling, we're going to keep the aircraft on the center line using the rudder. And when we hit about 150 knots, we're going to pull back on the stick till our velocity vector gets up to about 10 degrees. Nice and gently pull back, and the aircraft should lift itself off the ground nice and easy. So we'll turn onto the center line. Takes a little while to get used to the steering. Make sure you can get on the center line correctly. Right, now that we're there, we'll put the power up to max dry. Try and keep the aircraft on the center line. You can see the speed here increasing, 60, 70. When we hit 150, we'll pull back on the stick. Pull back till that's about 10 degrees, and we'll lift off the ground. As soon as you're off the ground, undercarriage up. You need the undercarriage to be up before 240 knots. And when you hit 200 knots, stick your flaps back to auto. And that is the takeoff from an airfield and an F-18. Next, we're going to have a look at the carrier takeoff. Right, here we are on the deck of the carrier. We're all started up, ready to go. There's a couple of things we need to go through before we start taxiing. Firstly, we're set up fairly similar. We've got the HUD on the left hand screen, we've got the FCS on the right hand screen. Down here though, we've got the flap sets half as we would. The anti-skid is off because we're on the carrier. And the launch bar, which we're going to use in a minute, is set to retract. So, because we're on the carrier and we're taxiing in close quarters to everything else, we taxi around with the wings folded. And we unfold them once we get to the carrier. The marshaller, guy in the yellow shirt, will tell us to unfold the wings. And because it's quite tight and we need to move around close to a lot of other stuff, we've got two modes of nose wheel steering. We've got normal nose wheel steering, which is indicated there. If we press the nose wheel steering undesignate button, that gives us nose wheel steering high. Now, if you've got the wings unfolded already, you can use nose wheel steering high, but you need to press and hold the nose wheel steering button. I believe it's S on the keyboard as standard. But if your wings are folded, you just have to press the button once and it will stay in that configuration. So we're going to taxi ourselves over to this catapult over here. See if we can line ourselves up and get a takeoff. First thing we need to do, which I forget to do a lot, is call up the ground crew and get them to remove the chocks. So if you press your communications menu, go to ground crew, wheel chocks, and remove.
Chief, remove the wheel chocks. Copy. Wheel chocks are now removed.
Right, happy days. We can start taxiing. Give it a little bit of power to get us moving. If you notice on the left screen down here as well, we've got wing unlocked indication. We'll get all that fixed in a minute. This guy is going to turn right into me, isn't he? So I'm going to try and go around him. So the takeoff procedure on the super carrier is a fair bit different to what you see on the normal carrier. If you do have the F-18 or the F-14 and you're intending to do carrier ops, I would definitely recommend getting the super carrier mod from DCS. It is absolutely superb. Having the guys on the deck marshalling you around and telling you what to do when you're hooking up is so much more immersive. So we'll try and turn it around here. And we'll try and line up with the catapult as best as possible. Once we're almost in position, the marshal is going to take over and marshal us in properly. So that guy stood in the middle there in the yellow shirt. He's going to do all our marshalling. The other guys are the ones that are going to hook us up to the catapult and make sure everything's good with our aircraft before we take off. There we go. Right, so see that indication to give me there? That's telling me to unfold the wings. So I'm going to look down here, click that twice right and push it in. And we'll see our wings unfold. And the flaps will pop down. So we've got our flaps in half, which is good. Trim for takeoff should be set around about 16. That means the aircraft will do everything it can, or it will do most of the stuff itself as you take off. So we'll set that to 16 on there using our trim. And that indication it's given us there is to move forward. So we'll give it a little bit of power. If you're not quite lined up, he'll give you other signals to move left and right. So if he sticks his arm out to the right hand side, you just turn right. If he sticks his arm out to the left, you turn left. Follow his indications and he'll get you nicely lined up on the catapult. You can also look at that little fin just in the middle there. If you can line that up with the middle of the catapult, you're doing pretty well. So we'll keep coming forward. And that's him telling me to put my brakes on. So we'll stop here. These guys will move in and start connecting us up. See how our nose wheel steering has gone back to normal nose wheel steering now because our wings are unfolded. Right, that's the indication to lower the launch bar. So we flick this switch here. And then this bar just down there at the front comes out the aircraft. They'll hook us up. He's going to move over there. Right, we can't steer now. Because we've got the launch bar down, our nose wheel steering is completely turned off. So you don't have to worry about turning anymore. We're hooked up to the catapult. We've just got to move forward to get over that shuttle where the guy with the green shirt is. So sometimes you need a fair bit of power to do this, so we'll start moving forward slowly. You might find that you have to move the throttle forward. There you go. So we're pushing the throttle forward still. All of a sudden it will just clonk into place. There it goes, and we'll throttle back. Now we're just waiting for them to finish off the process. In fact, it will give us a signal. That signal is to raise the launch bar. If we don't do that, if we take off with the launch bar still down, it can break the undercarriage as we retract it. So now we're concentrating on this guy. He's our launcher. Have a check around. We're going to throttle up to max afterburner. We're going to stir the controls, make sure everything's working. Back into the comms menu. Ground crew. Salute. Now you don't need to touch anything. As soon as we're off the catapult, we're going to select the undercarriage up and put the flaps to auto. So there we go, undercarriage is selected up, flaps are to auto. We climb to 500 feet. Out of afterburner. Level off about there. And we stay here until we're 10 miles out from the carrier. Again, when you launch off the catapult, you don't need to touch anything. The aircraft will take care of itself. It'll get you airborne in a nose-up attitude. And there we go. We've left the carrier behind.
Colt 1, passing waypoint 2 at 5,000.
Now, when we're past 10 miles out, we can climb to whatever altitude we need to. And that is taken off in the F-18. We've covered taking off from an airfield and taking off from the carrier. In the next video, we're going to look at landing. Again, thanks for watching, guys. If you've enjoyed the video, hit the like button. Maybe think about subscribing. And I will see you in the next one.
What you think about when you're born into a fire?